What's going on, people? Hope you are good. Welcome back to the channel. Oh, excuse the state of my hair. It's early in the morning and we've not even had the morning coffee yet. So last episode, we went through the plan for the rest of this year with aiming for 2 photo shoots. We're going to be starting dieting in just a few weeks time to get ready for 2 photo shoots in November time. So loads of time to diet. So what I wanted to cover today was how we got to the point where we're now, which is at the end of a 45-week gaining phase. So we've spent the last 45 weeks pushing food up incrementally, focusing on training performance, trying to add some mass, trying to add some muscle density to then be able to see it when we then next cut down. But that's not come without its challenges. And if you follow me on socials at all, on Instagram, anything like that, and you see me talking about this a bit more frequently, you'll know that I'm not a bodybuilder, right? I don't live to go to the gym. I do enjoy training, I enjoy the benefits you see from it, but it isn't the most exciting part of my day. So when it comes to a 45-week stint of eating more food, trying to get a bit stronger, trying to build some muscle, that's exciting, but then there is a flip side to that. And that's what I wanted to jump into today. I want to take you from start to finish, everything we've done over the last 45 weeks, how we've approached this gaining phase, how it's gone, what the difference is in terms of how we're looking, and what I've struggled with along the way, because this is actually something that I speak to a lot with clients. Because when I chat to clients about this who are going through similar gaining phases and maybe aren't used to them, the things that they struggle with the most are motivation, are allowing themselves to gain a little bit of body fat, are pushing their food up without feeling full over time. Like, it's a difficult process. So we're going to dive into that today. I'm going to take you through everything. You're going to be able to see exactly what we've done up until this point now, how we're currently looking, and then you'll be fully up to speed on how we're going to be starting the photo shoot prep in a couple of weeks. So let's get into it. So where did this phase start? This all started back at the end of last June. So towards the end of last June, me and Sophie did a little bit of a mini cut because we did a little bit of a photo shoot together. Not necessarily it wasn't like a diet for a full fitness photo shoot. We didn't get that lean. It was more as just like a little tidy up. I think we dieted for about 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks at most, and not that aggressively. It was just a little bit of a tidy up to come in to do a bit of a couple shoot together, which was loads and loads of fun. It was really great, actually. It's a bit different to what I'm used to doing, or the style of shoots that I'm used to doing. And then that was our start point. So we came out of that photo shoot. I think I weighed about 68, 69 kilos, something like that. So pretty light, sitting about maybe 3 kilos above my lightest that I'd been for a full photo shoot. And the goal was simply just to add size. That was it. So I sat down, had a chat with Mike, and the goal was literally just to add size. So our baseline calories when we came out of that photo shoot last June, I think we were on around same protein, so about 200 to 220 grams of protein a day. And then I think on a training day, we were sitting around 2,500 calories, and on a non-training day, it was around 2,200. So calories starting moderately okay, I think. Pretty much at maintenance where we came out of that diet phase at, and we just held it there. So unlike a dieting phase where you would typically see changes every single week that would then indicate whether you'd need to make any nutrition adjustments or not, you don't really get the same thing in a gaining phase. You don't see changes quite as quickly, and it's often much less frequent that you need to make any nutritional changes once you start seeing that rate of gain that you wanted to see. So for us, we were wanting to see around 1% of body weight per month. So nothing major at all. But the first 5 weeks, we didn't see anything. First 5 weeks, in fact, I think my weight continued to drop. So we carried on bumping food up each week just to try and get it to stop going down. And I think we ended up after 5 weeks being sitting around just over 3,000 calories a day just to stop the weight from going down and get it to level out. And then from week 5 onwards, on those calories, that's when we started to see some very small incremental bumps up in weight as we went along the process. We didn't increase my calories every single week. We literally increased calories. We then watched what weight did for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and once it started to level off and plateau and we stopped seeing that rate of gain that we wanted to see, we nudged calories up again a little bit more. And that was it. And we literally rinsed and repeated that for the entire 45 weeks. Because the main thing we wanted to make sure that we didn't do was gain body fat too quickly. Now, I know the title of this video is I Got Fat, but in all honesty, for 45 weeks of gaining, we've gained around 12 kilos in total. We've not gained a ridiculous amount of body fat. We're definitely now at the upper limit of where we would want to push it to. And if I wasn't starting a photo shoot prep within the next week, we would be going into some sort of mini cut anyway to bring body fat back down a bit so we could push again. But we really didn't gain it that quickly. And like I said, you don't see the same sort of changes every single week. When you're looking at your check-in pictures every week in a gaining phase, you don't really see much difference at all. And this can become really, really difficult. And this is what I wanted to jump into in terms of the realities of a gaining phase. phase and actually the struggles that we have with a gaining phase, because from a nutritional perspective, everything that we did was just to push body weight up, push strength up in the gym, improve recovery between workouts, and quite often than not, if we increased carbs, I would try to put those extra carbs or calories around that training window until we got to a point where I'd completely maxed out the amount of carbs I could have pre and post training, and then had to go to other areas. So the goal with this gaining phase from a nutritional perspective was simply that: drive body weight up, drive strength up, improve recovery. But that came with a lot of challenges that I'm going to dive into now, but I need to take the dog out. So we're going to grab Baloo, we're going to get some stuff together, we're going to head out, and we'll jump right into that. So the reality of building lean muscle tissue, being in a gaining phase for so long, is difficult. So when we're in a dieting phase, you know, you've got weekly changes. You can see what we would perceive as positive weekly changes. You're getting leaner, you look a bit more muscular. You can see those changes coming in pretty quickly to give you that little bump of motivation that not only are you going in the right direction and that changes are coming in, but you're getting also closer to that end goal. When it comes to a gaining phase, it is pretty much flipped on its head. You don't see weekly changes. You don't see more muscle coming through. You don't look what you would perceive to be better because you are leaner. In fact, it is the exact opposite, especially as a natural lifter where you're not going to be gaining enough significant muscle to be able to see changes every single week or to look bigger every single week. You know, the dog with his squeaker in the ball. You're essentially going to be looking worse week to week. You're going to be adding a little bit of body fat as you go through, which is going to be covering some of the new muscle that you're building underneath. And in your checking pictures on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, you are going to have to accept the fact that you look a little bit worse. You can't see quite as much muscle. In fact, you'll probably feel you're a bit smaller. You might even feel like you look like you've lost muscle, and you might actually start to question whether the process is working. That is the reality of a gaining phase. They are long, they are slow. To build any sort of lean muscle tissue as a natural lifter, it takes a hell of a long time. And you have to be comfortable and accept the fact that you're going to be adding body fat. You're going to probably look what you perceive to be a little bit worse, but you're just going to have to stick with it. You know, you don't have that same week to week motivation when you're seeing improvements in your pictures. Motivation can be quite low when you are in a gaining phase. You can feel like it's a long slog. You can be tempted to go back into a dieting phase the second you feel a little bit uncomfortable or slightly unhappy with the photos. But the fact is that if you want to see any long-term progress with how you're looking or any long-term improvement in the amount of muscle that you have, you just have to push through that process and you have to keep going for as long as you can pull that gaining phase out for, whilst maintaining a relatively leaner body shape. So you should be able to string it out. Like we said, we've been doing this one now for 45 weeks, which is a long time to be gained in one continuous stint. So you've got to look past the physique changes and you've almost just got to look to the performance changes in your training. You've got to look to your recovery markers, everything like that, and keep that big picture goal in sight of how it's going to look in the end and why it's going to be worth it when you then next diet down to see the muscle that you've built underneath during that extended gaining phase. But the reality is, it's tough. Motivation will be low. You'll probably look a little bit worse week to week or feel like you do, and you'll probably want to give up a lot of the time, but you just have to push on. So where are we now? Like I said at the start, we've gained about 12 kilos over the last 45 weeks, which, you know, means we've looked at an average rate of gain of about 0.2 to 0.3 kilos a week, which isn't a lot. And this is the difference between when we started to now. So you can see there has been some body fat gained, that's obvious, but we've also gained some nice thickness, certainly in the upper back area, where we've been actually programming in through this gaining phase a lot more posterior chain loaded movements with deadlifts, with RDLs, and we've really just focused on driving strength up, which we have massively noticed over certainly the past 8 to 12 weeks. Strength has been going up and up and up to the point where I'm literally hitting PBs on almost now a weekly basis. Let's take an incline Smith press, for example. I would have been happy to have got 100 kilos out on that for 2 to 3 reps. Whereas at the end of this phase now, in my last workout a few days ago, I got it for 2 sets of 10. So we have massively increased our strength pretty much across the board on every movement, which is gonna translate to some muscle tissue being gained. Although at the minute it's very, very difficult to tell where that might be because of the fat mass that I've added, it's hiding it. As we start to diet down, we should be able to see where I managed to add some decent muscle to. Now I'm hoping it's going to be pretty much everywhere, especially for my physique where my weaknesses tend to be my shoulders and my arms, but we'll start to get a better idea of that as we start to diet down. And from a calorie point of view, I've spoken about this loads on my socials, but if you didn't know by now, the end point for our calories, again, we stayed at between 200 to 220 grams of protein a day. But by the end of this process now, for the past 2 to 3 months, I've been on around 4,700 calories on a training day, and I've been on around 4,000 calories on a non-training day. Plus we've had one untracked day a week. So that's just one day a week where I've not tracked anything. I've not gone crazy. It's not like I've gone up and gone for a McDonald's breakfast, gone for a Subway for dinner and gone out for a meal for tea. I've pretty much still eaten the same things that I normally eat day to day. I've just not bothered to track them. That's the point that we've got to over these past few months within this whole 45-week gaining phase. So what the goal is now, I've got about a week and a half until me and Sophie go away for her birthday. So we're going to be taking some untracked days before that time. We're basically going to treat this next week as a bit of time off from tracking. We're not going to be thinking about anything like that. It's going to give me a bit of mental space, a bit of rest, ready for when we get back, because when we get back, that is when we will be dropping into this photo shoot prep, and we are going to be hitting the ground running. Me and Mike have sat down and talked about this, and we've already agreed that we want to hit it aggressively. Like, we don't want to leave any stone unturned. We want to get to the shoot the leanest we've ever been, and I know that I can handle a more aggressive approach. I've done it before. I know I can handle it. I'm actually excited to do it. I'm fed up of the food. I want to get into it and I want to push down. So we're going to be dropping calories pretty low and putting cardio up pretty high from the off. And the other side of that is that we do have some occasions coming up between now and the shoot that pushing more aggressively in the early days means we can be a bit more lenient with those as well, which is a nice bonus. But ultimately, we are going in aggressive for it. And so that's it, guys. The gaining phase is done. The past 45 weeks of work is ticked off. Now, as I've said in this video, I would be lying if I said it had gone smoothly all of the time. There were definitely times where my motivation was massively down. I wasn't wanting to train, where I didn't want to have to force the food in. I wasn't liking the checking photos. And that is just part and parcel of this whole process. And if you can take anything from this video, take this bit of advice that when it comes to a gaining phase, try to put all your conscious effort into your training. So instead of when you're dieting, you're looking for changes in your pictures, in your weight, you're using that for progress that you're going forward, you're using that for motivation to keep pushing on. Change that for when you're gaining, and don't look at those markers for progress or motivation, because you're probably going to end up feeling pretty bad about it. Instead, look at your training. Focus on getting stronger in the gym. Focus on doing your best in your workouts. Focus on progressing movements, and use that as an indicator for making progress. Because if you can get stronger and add body weight consistently over time, you're going to build muscle tissue. There is no question about it. But you're probably not going to see just how much muscle tissue until you next diet down. That is when you'll see the results of all the hard work you've been putting in through that gaining phase. But you need to give yourself enough time to do it. A gaining phase isn't a 6-week, 8-week, 12-week thing. You need to stretch it out for, to be honest, as long as you possibly can, which means not going crazy with your calories, not trying to eat as much as you possibly can. And it isn't going to be easy, and it isn't going to be straightforward. And there are going to be times when you want to give up and drop back into a diet so to feel a bit better about yourself. But that is when you just have to keep pushing through. So that's it. That's where we are, guys. 45 weeks done. We've got a bit of time now to relax a little bit, take our foot off the gas with tracking, with nutrition, keep things consistent. I'll still be getting into the gym. I'll still be keeping my protein high. Me and Sophie are going to go away for a birthday to Barcelona, have about 4 days there, which I'm really, really looking forward to. A bit of time to unwind and relax. And then we are back and we are going to hit the ground running. So until then, guys, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.